In 2010 I was 23, and had just moved to London from Manchester, where I had trained as an intelligencer. I had a dream job, an inferior part on a magazine, but it turned out to be quite a miserable place. My director was open about lamenting having hired me, and my confidence, which had no way been high, declined. I was single, my musketeers were scattered each over the megacity, and I was renting a basement room with no windows that bring exactly half my yearly payment. It was on one of these lonely days that a link popped up. MI5 was running a reclamation drive, and it transferred you to a verbal logic test that was part of the operation process to become an intelligence officer, a asset, in other words. Spying had no way passed to me as a career, and my only study as I clicked on the link was that it might be a more intriguing use of my lunch break than scrolling through Facebook. I finished the test within the distributed time and went back to work, checking the prices of lip glosses we planned to feature in the magazine, and gave it no further study until latterly that autumn, when I entered an dispatch from MI5 inviting me to an assessment center the coming week. The coming many months were a blur of examinations and interviews in anonymous London structures, none of which for egregious reasons I was allowed to bandy with anyone. From a distance it sounded like any other graduate reclamation process, but of course it was NT. MI5 workers have to be completely open about every aspect of their lives, to cover them against being blackmailed. I was asked about my sexual preferences and for the names of all the people I had ever slept with, and had to hand over bank statements. At one interview, a cinch of my hair was cut off to test it for medicines. It was all surreal, but I did NT mind. In fact, I planned the precipitously protrusive loops I had to jump through, strangely assuring they gave my days and weeks a shape and sense of purpose that had been missing. I had been lost, and it felt as if someone had planned me. I lived in West London at the time, and took the Piccadilly line to work. The train had frequently come from Heathrow, full of trippers, some of whom could be chatty. So I allowed nothing of it when, one morning, the man standing next to me struck up a discussion. He was slightly aged, with an accentuation I could place in an affable but patient manner. "Whereabouts did I live?" he asked. "What was it like? How long had I been living there? Was it accessible for my office? Where did I work?" I was still artificially cautious. Indeed, at 23 I had lived long enough to know that relations with strange men on public transport, no matter how innocent, infrequently ended well. After a couple of stops, he turned to me as the train braked to a halt. "Well, this is me," he said. "It was nice to meet you, Emma Hughes." It was NT until the train started moving again that I realized I had NT told him my surname. When I got off the train, I stood on the platform, fizzling with adrenaline. Although it was possible he'd glanced into my bag, I had nothing fluently visible on me that could have told the man my full name. I remembered a friend's stock, who had applied for a job with MI6, telling me they had been approached in the road by a man speaking their alternate language, an unusual bone. They suspected it was part of the reclamation process, to test how guarded they were. Had this man followed me? Had he been told to talk to me on the train to suss me out? What differently did he know about me? For the first time I felt overwhelmingly uneasy. The full force of the loss of agency that subscribing up to work at MI5 hit me. It sounds ridiculous now, but although I had come round to the idea of watching people for a living, swept up in my escape fantasy, I had given important study to how it would feel to be watched myself. Or having all my exertion covered, on and offline, and telling every promising new relationship to my employers before we were indeed sanctioned. "This is what you want," a voice in my head rumored. "This is the answer." I no way planned out who the man was. A couple of weeks latterly, however, after a final interview, I entered a letter from MI5 telling me I had failed my advanced vetting, the security concurrence needed before a job offer. No reason was given, and I was told I could NT appeal. It hurt. I felt as if I had been ditched after a whirlwind love. But deep down, I was relieved. My life moved on. I got another job, reconnected with old musketeers, made new bones. I was suitable to do effects I no way could have done had I come an intelligence officer having flings, dyeing my hair loud colors and writing a novel. The person I'm now would make an absolutely terrible asset. Whenever I travel on the Piccadilly line I feel overwhelmingly thankful that I got the chance to grow up into her. Emma Hughes's novel, No Similar Thing Is Perfect, is published by Century, £12.99.